Hello, everybody. So, we are here on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, and all at the same time, mastering our streaming. StreamYard, mastering our streaming. I imagine there's code in streaming.
I imagine there is too. Anything that has to do with water is how we feel about the flow of life.
Hmm.
And yard is typically where we play. And it's
Hmm.
the first things that people see when they come to our homes.
Awesome. So, to take a minute, last time we just jump in and we start doing what we do, where we speak into what we are aware of and coaching it. To introduce ourselves, my name is Carrie Mushaw, and I am an anxiety expert and coach. And this is my business partner, Andrea Alexander. And we are with Embodied Coaching, and we jumped in and we speak into the power of our words and how our words do matter and how our words do create our reality and how it actually is your magic wand, and that every word you say can create a miracle when we own it. And we discover what we've been saying through time and how it has led us to where we are right now. And if we choose to create something completely different, our words can do that instantaneously. And so we're here to share with everybody so that you can begin to understand how powerful your words are and how creating a few upgrades in your words, just changing a few words, can change absolutely everything in your entire life. And with this message, we decided that it was best that we go ahead and hi, Crystal. That was my sister in law. That we go ahead and jump on live so that people could hear what it is we're speaking into and what's coming up, what's been in our journey. And so, in that, let's go ahead. I'm looking at the little thing that comes up that says embodied coaching, but it's okay. I'm going to let it be as it is right now. So, I'm going to go ahead and begin and share my story. So, as I came into all of this beautiful consciousness, I stepped in because I had experienced 32 years of what the world calls epilepsy, seizures. And for 32 years, I was desiring to find an answer to what was going on in my life and why I felt that way, because there was something in me that knew that this was not going to last forever. And there was something in me that knew that I could change what I was experiencing. The doctors had given me medications, and even though I had medications, I still had seizures coming through them. And I began to realize that there was something for me. And so I continued on my journey to try to figure out what that was. I did yoga classes. I became a yoga instructor. I did fitness classes. I changed my diet, did gluten free, and I did energy work. And then I cleared all my chakras. So I did so many things to discover why I was experiencing what I was experiencing. And though I did experience a little ease and I had a little bit of mindfulness and I was masterful at meditation, I still experienced seizures. And if you'll imagine that you're at the bottom of the ocean and you're looking up and you can see the light and you begin to swim up faster and faster to get to the top and you feel your chest contract and you can't breathe and you don't know if you're going to make it to the top. And so you swim harder and harder only to get to the top, to take a breath and realize that tonight you'll go to bed and tomorrow you'll wake up at the bottom of the ocean. This was my experience every single day. Would I make it or would I have a seizure? And would that require that I recover for 12 to 24 hours? So as I began to come into this journey, I had a friend say to me, join me at this wellness center in Waller. And so I said, okay, well, I've done everything else. Let's go. And I get there, and I just remember that I walked in and they were sitting in a circle and they began talking about consciousness and subconscious and how our subconscious is 95% of everything that we do and say daily, and that our consciousness is only 5% of everything we do or say. And we are all working out of our consciousness. And that's why we're so tired. And that had my attention. I began to lean in because every day I required a 2-hour nap because I was so tired and trying to get through my days. So I went home and I got the book and I read the entire book from the beginning to the end, the only book that I've ever read in one day. It was really powerful for me. And then they had a retreat. So I jumped in and I did the retreat. And as I was at the retreat, I remember that every day we were in a circle and she would go around and she would say, tell your story. And you would tell your story. And then she would have these calculated questions that she would figure out. She would be listening to your words and she would find the exact words that you used to create a question. And everybody would have these aha moments, these awesome revelations. And I was, wow, that was amazing. So I'm sitting there going, yes, I'm so excited because we're coming around the circle and it's going to be my turn and I'm going to have this aha massive revelation. And she gets to me and she says, Carrie, will you share? I share. She says, thank you. And she moves to the next person. I was like, what in the world is happening? Next day, same thing. Go around, Carrie, I share, thank you. She moves on. I was so irritated. I couldn't believe I had made it all this time and I had come to this new space where they were doing this new stuff and I thought this was going to be it. And then it didn't happen. I was ready to go home and start all over again. And then she decided, she said, okay, we're going to do this new thing called body electronics and we're going to put you on the table. She put me on the table and she explained that it was going to be myofascial tissue release and body electronics. People were going to take their thumbs and put them in the side of your body in acupressure points. You're going to breathe. I said, okay. So I laid on the table, and as I breathed, I began to see these images in my mind that played like a movie. And as I saw them, the first thing I saw was I saw myself at 4 years old and I was riding a tricycle down the street and I fell and I hit the ground. And all of a sudden, my mom comes screaming out, Mama's here, Mama's here. It's okay, it's okay. And as soon as my mother arrived in front of me and she looked at me, I realized something had to be really wrong and I started crying. She was terrified. Then the next thing, I was in a hospital bed. I was pregnant. My mom comes racing around the corner screaming, it's okay, Mommy's here, Mommy's here. And suddenly she gets in front of me. And again, I realize something has to be wrong with me. She's terrified. So I start crying. And in that moment, the coach said to me, Carrie, how do you feel? And I said, my mom is so scared. Will you help her? She said, Carrie, how do you feel? I said, my mom is so scared. Somebody do something. And she said, Carrie, have you left yourself behind? And I said, yes. And she said, are you willing to trust how you feel? That was massive for me because in that very moment was the first time I was aware of me. And when I sat up off that table, life was completely different. I could feel me. And when I got in the car to travel home, I began to look at things and my eyes felt different. The road was different. I saw cows for the first time. I saw the sky and everything was very childlike, as if it's the first time I had seen it. I was so intrigued and excited. And when I got home, my family was different. And those 2-hour naps that I had to have daily were completely gone. And I could feel my family's love bigger than I had ever felt it before, and they could feel mine. And I knew in that moment that that was for me. So I jumped in and became a coach, and 1 year later, returned to the table, remembering that in myofascial tissue, our tissues store issues. Our body holds on to memories. And when I got on the table again, I walked through my very first seizure. It was the first time I was remembering it. And when I sat up off that table, I had heard my mother show up again. Mama's here, Mama's here. And I let that go. And I knew that my seizures were gone. And I knew it was time for me to seize life. And this was my journey into massive transformation, because our words will reveal why everything is happening for us in life. Andrea, will you share your story?
Yes. My story began when I was much younger. My mother said to me one time, she said, Andrea, it was like a light went off and you started eating and you just never stopped. And I had the experience as a walking into my grandmother's kitchen with this great big table of my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles sitting around this table and laughing. And I walked in and nobody saw me. Nobody spoke to me. And I walked straight to the refrigerator and I took out a handful of caramels. And I was 5 years old. And this is when my light went out. And for the next number of years, what I heard was, how can you still be hungry? Why are you still hungry? Aren't you full yet? Go outside. Go find something else to do. Go play. And I'd say, I don't want to, Mama. And she would say, what's wrong with you, Andrea? I don't know. And so fast forward several years, I find myself meditating and doing self-hypnosis one afternoon, and I had this memory come across that literally sat me bolt right up from a complete relaxed state. Just, but it was too dark. I didn't remember. And it was in this moment that I realized there's nothing wrong with me. Something happened to me. And so for the next literally 2.5 decades, I tried all different kinds of therapies. And I did feel better sometimes, and yet I'd yet to discover, because what I imagined was, in remembering what that memory that I had yet to remember was, that I could fix me. And what happened was I still found myself home alone with my refrigerator. I had so much fear in me that somebody would knock at the door and I would literally hit the floor and freeze. The phone would ring and ring and ring, and I wouldn't answer. I was home alone with my refrigerator. And so after literally 2.5 decades of this, I found a therapist who supported me in remembering. And so I'm 48 years old. And I remember I was sexually traumatized by an uncle when I was 5. And you'd think, okay, now what? Now I know. I've been asking to know for 45, almost 50 years, what happened. Now I can fix me. And what actually transpired is things got really scary. I was experiencing, I literally set up my life in what I called my corner office. It was this little corner of my sofa where I worked and lived, everything. I was afraid to move. My body felt filled full of bees. I was living in this box. My skin crawled and buzzed. I was experiencing 10 to 15 panic attacks a day. I was scared to move. And then over the next year, someone invited me to a class called Sacred Body Language Translations. And something in me said yes. And I went and I listened to this group of women in a large class of women speaking about consciousness. Our words create our reality. We are our thoughts and our feelings is what we believe, we perceive. And she said, our body speaks to us through pain and disease. And I had a long list of ailments: ADHD, hypertension, I had eczema, I had all kinds of things going on. And I didn't understand what they were talking about at all. I was like, what? My body talks to me? And in this group, she asked for a volunteer, and something in me, I raised my hand first. And she asked me, she says, what hurts? And I said, my thumb. And she says, when did it start? When I was in college. And she says, how does it feel? I said, it burns and it stings, similar to the bees. And she says to me, say, I willingly let go. She says, say it again. I willingly let go. And something in me changed instantly. The pain in my thumb, it disappeared. And so what I discovered in this class was that my body had been talking to me, and I went home and I played with this. I got the book, I got the videos. I tried to do everything all on my own because that was my pattern. I can do this. I got me. And I took myself as far as I could, and then I hired a coach. And through my coach and through retreat and continuing to return to the farm, I have learned how to translate every single signal in my body. And I have learned that all of my aches and my pains in our body actually correspond to what is going on in our subconscious mind. It's a tricky beast in there. So, for example, our legs are about moving forward. Our hips are about our legs are about moving forward. Our hips are about how we stand and where we are. Our feet are about understanding. Our hearts are about our love challenges. And our hands and our arms are about what we've been holding on to in life. So I got off the couch. The bees began to leave. And taking my panic attacks with them. Today, I open the door and I answer the phone. And for the first time in 40 years, I am no longer home alone with the refrigerator. And I have become willing to put the topic of food back on the table. And I am actually literally letting go of over 40 years of carrying the weight of trauma. And in 7.5 weeks, I have let go of over 25 pounds. My light is back on, and I invite you to join me. I can help you too. And so, is anyone interested in a translation?
I would enjoy. It's funny to me when you said the thumb, because I remember that analogy of the thumb you've used for so many things and how powerful the thumb is. Will you share, because you've used the thumb, will you share do you have another story about the thumb? Will you share about what your thumb means, first of all, and what you had experienced with what the story you've shared about the thorn and people, what they believe,
Ah.
what they believe about their thumb.
And so first of all, it's my right thumb, and our right side is our masculine energy about doing. And so how have you felt about what you've been handed and doing? And the thumb itself is will, and it's our will for us. And it's actually very deep down in my hand where I require doing something differently and being more flexible with how I'm handling what's been given to me in life. And my favorite story, analogy in understanding what's going on in our bodies is, for example, if you get a thorn or a splinter in your finger or your foot or something, what happens is it hurts to take it out. And so there's pain involved in removing it. And what we tend to do is say, well, I'll get it later. And so it begins to get infected. And so we walk funny, or we handle things differently. We find ways, we wrap it, we band-aid it so that we're remembering not to so nothing touches it. And then you find yourself, well, it hurts. So now it hurts to drive. So I'm going to find a way to hold my arm up so I can drive. And you're like, look at me. Look what I'm doing. I got this handled. And we've built this entire contraption. And so what we're doing is we're moving ourselves from the people and the things that we love and enjoy the most, because we might get hurt if they accidentally touch our wound or our thorn. And so the question is, do I have thorns? And my response is, do you get irritated? Do you get angry? Do you feel sad? Or you feel stressed out or overwhelmed? And if so, I'd love to know who says no. Awesome, you've ascended. And
Right.
if so, something in you has been triggered because of a previous wound that is stored deep within the tissue or a portion of your unconscious mind. It's literally in your limbic portion of your brain. And what we all are aware of is once we remove the thorn is when the healing begins. We might have yuck come out, and yet it begins to heal. We have a scab, and the scab itches, and there's light coming in, and we are healing. And so the moment we put our attention on what happened and we're willing to uncover and remove that thorn is when we begin to let go of what created it in the first place.
That's so amazing. It's so amazing that when you remember how people will build everything around ourselves. So we're making it through. I mean, in my story, it was, building the, take a 2-hour nap, and, get up and station the whole day so that I had 2 hours to sleep so that I could get by, so that I was sure that I was getting enough rest to try to keep me out of seizures. And because mine were stress induced. And so if you rest, then you're not stressed, right? It's a belief. I'm not telling. It's clearly a belief that stationing my whole life to be so that I could move through as easily as possible, and yet being under a rapid race to get everything done so that I could make it through the day. And it's how we create everything around us. I remember buying a car with all these alerts in it so that I could press a button at any time and have somebody come on the speaker and could get.
Oh my, that's translatable.
Due to circulatory problems, etc. For safety, always see a doctor for something like that.
It said for no apparent reason is what Alexa just said. She said for no apparent reason, and she said for safety.
And
And call a
apparently,
doctor for, and she said, and call a doctor for that. Did you hear that?
yes.
That
And
those were the beliefs that I had. Yeah, that. Good job, Alexa. She's following my code and my words. That's hilarious. And yes, it was the belief that you had to have all of these things, and how we just design our life to support whatever is happening for us instead of creating the life that we truly desire. Because it was to do all these things so that you could have a little bit of relief. And yet it was only, that's what I was, when I speak about coming up for air, it was literally take the breath, go to sleep, wake up, and begin again. And that was my moment of relief. It wasn't as though it was long lasting. It was a moment, and that's how I believed it had to be. And so when I finally saw that there was something completely different, and what I find profound about building our world around us is we're speaking about how our words can actually build exactly what we desire instead of what we believe we have to have.
yes.
And getting by is the phrase that I hear for both of us, that we were both just trying to get by, just survive, just live the day. Ooh, big burp on that one. Awesome new choice. Because my choice is to thrive, to enjoy all of life. And that's what I experienced the moment that I began to understand all of my words, my beliefs. I woke up every morning saying I was tired. I'm tired. When do I get to go to sleep again? And we always ask, if you're saying I'm tired, what are you tired of? I was tired of the rat race. I was tired of just getting by.
What I'm aware of is the things, what I've become aware of is the things that we are doing day in and day out. The busy, the I've got to, I have to, I'm going to. It's the way that we separate ourselves from enjoying life, because there is massive fear that is underlying that created that thorn. And so why would I leave my house if I was that scared? I didn't know. And what I knew was that food felt soothing, and it worked in the beginning, and then it becomes our beast of burden, so to speak. And it's what keeps us in the patterns of, this is where I feel safe. This is where I feel secure. And another analogy I love, because we have all these things that we desire to do. We know we have an inner knowing that there's more to this. We've just yet to understand how or why. And we'll begin something. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk. And we begin these practices or these habits to shift stuff, and we start to feel better. And why do we stop? Because it's working. And so there's the analogy of the crab bucket. And a gentleman's walking down the wharf, and he's got a bucket full of crabs, and they're all wiggly at the top. And the fisherman walking towards him says, "You better put a lid on those. They're going to escape." And the crabber says, "No, they won't. When they get to the top, the other ones pull them back in." And this is the difference between our egoic self, our unconscious mind enjoys us staying exactly where we are because it is what is known. And we've all had the experience of, if somebody asks you to raise your hand, do you love change? How many people in the room will raise their hand? Very few. Yet if we want something to be different, we require making great changes. And great changes sound scary. How do we do that? It starts with something that you agree to do for 30 seconds a day. It can be that simple. That's all the loving action you require to begin to build.
It's funny that as soon as something starts working, then we stop. I believe that's so true. And I've had that experience. And yet, to our logical mind, that makes no sense at all. No sense at all. And yet, I've had clients that are like, oh, I had this I had this moment and it was beautiful and I'm experiencing this, but I don't really think I'm doing it. And I'm like, you just spoke into the little piece of the slice of life that's different. Don't you desire to have the whole cake of life? It's like, since we're putting food on the table, I'm like, why would you just have the slice? And it's our subconscious mind saying to us, you've tasted that. You're not gonna get all of it. And it's our former, it's our former belief that starts getting bigger and bigger to allow us to collapse it, to squash it, to totally transform it into a completely new belief that we do deserve to have all of it, but we'll be required to stay to create that. I mean, in 9 days of a retreat, I get 2 hours a day back in my life. I had 2 hours a day of naps for 32 years. I choose to mathematically draw that out sometime because that is hours and hours of my life that I experienced. And in 9 days of a retreat, all of a sudden, every day. And I remember thinking, oh, this is like an energy thing. Like it's all going to dissipate after I'm just on an energy high. And after 4 days, it's going to go boom. And yet, or a few days. And that was not true. I mean, it still exists that I still have all the energy. You did the math, didn't you?
I did. It's 23,360 hours. Divided by 24 is 973 days.
Oh, 973 days
of naps in 32
years. Wow. 973 days. That's a lot. That's a massive return for 9 days of something.
It's 2 2/3 of a year.
Wow. In just 9 days. And then when I stepped in and did it for a year, I walked all the way through my seizures. And that is so massive because the seizures took 24 hours of recovery, at least. And so, or 12 to 24. So I'm sure there's math on how many times I did that. It's a lot. And it's a massive return. If we believe that we got a little bit, that feels good. And that's enough. I feel pretty good. I feel a little bit better. People will say that. And yet we're of the understanding that we desire to feel glorious and to stretch past what we've known before, because that is the piece, is that our conscious mind is yet to be able to wrap their mind around this. For example, it's working. It's working. So I stopped. To our conscious mind, that makes no sense. But yet we do it. But to our subconscious minds, it says, I'm going to keep you in this pattern because you've been here all along and we're really comfortable, like a little person, like a little child, really comfortable here. Why would I do something? Why would I get a different result forever?
Did you grow up hearing, you can't have it all, Carrie? You can't have it all, Carrie.
Yes.
Yes, and we believe that we couldn't. And the truth is that in our divine blueprint says we can have it all. And what we've been doing is because of the things that we've heard in our lives that we can't have it all. It's a belief, and that you only get this much. This is weighted and measured. And so we are holding on to crumbs when the room is full of abundance and life and joy and pleasure. And it's a choice to actually step into what we choose to have. We can. And it may look completely different than what you expected it to be.
I remember I just desired to feel a little bit better. It's like I just desired to have a little bit of, I remember that. So I believe the reason peace is because it keeps coming to me because, I have a belief on the word peace because it floats. It's very vague. And I do remember coming into this thinking, I just require a little bit of peace. And yet to know what that was. And for me, it was to have rest and be able to experience life. When you get 2 hours back a day, I remember the first time going, oh my God, I have so much energy. I remember saying, what do people do with all this time?
And
So it was massive. And being able to be with, that's the space where you experience others in a whole different way because you're really there. Because every other time I was with my family, I still was in the background thinking of how I could sleep or where I was going to get my relief or how I was going to move through even their activities in life to get home, to get this done, to get that done, to get this done, to ultimately go to sleep. And so there was, how do you stay present and really be with what your family's saying to you when you're constantly going on how you can get everything done and thinking about what you have to do. And that's the space of anxiety. People often, some of us are yet to understand that constantly thinking is outside of your heart space. And we're of the remembering that in our system that we move from our hearts, we create everything from our hearts. And what's so powerful about what we're doing in our language, we call this pure speech, where we find the words that you're using and we transform them. And what we're remembering is that we already have all the tools that we require in our body. There's nothing to buy. There's nothing to download. There's nothing. We already have all the tools in us. And you may partner with something else if you desire to partner with. I partnered with medication for years until I walked from my seizures, which I choose to say now that I'm 3 years seizure and medication free. I oopsed on that part. That's my victory. Why would I?
Massive glory.
Hello. And we may partner with those things, as I did for a while until I knew I was complete and I no longer required them. But what we're aware of is that everything that we require is in our body. We were built divinely, and we have every tool in us to walk through every discomfort that we have, every disease we have. And it's our words that are holding us here. That's where we are, is that I'm tired every morning, waking up every morning. I'm tired, and being tired of what I was experiencing in life. And yet that phrase was keeping me in it. It was keeping me moving through all of it. And it's just one of the phrases that I played that kept me right there. And the movement of seizures is because for me, and for everyone, a translation may be a little bit different. But in my experience, seizures were a way for me to check out because I could sleep for 24 hours. It was a way for me to get away from the stress that I experienced in everyday life. And since I didn't see another way, my body was like, I'll give you a way. Here you go. With these seizures, you'll be able to sleep for 24 hours. You'll be able to sleep for 2 hours daily. And these will be ways that you'll get away from your stress. And yet every day, as I mentioned, I would wake up feeling as though I was at the bottom of the ocean again. So they were just small moments in time. And it's a belief that I took on. How will I handle what I'm feeling? Which in my story, you hear my mother coming in and screaming. I took on all my mother's feelings. It's that story when you raise children and they fall and they get a boo-boo. And everybody says, if you jump in and go, oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay? That they're going to always react that way. And that was me. And I didn't go, oh my gosh, am I okay? Okay, okay. I just was internally scared and panicked that I wasn't going to be okay. And I took on all of that. And that's why in the story, that I spoke into my testimonial, I was yet to feel myself. I was yet to know how I really felt. I believed I knew how I felt. If you ask me, I would tell you. If you would have asked me straight away, sitting like this, hey, Carrie, did you take on your mom's feelings? I'd be, think you were nuts. But what showed up was how much I had believed in all my mother's fears. And I just took them. So then I just transferred it into my daily life, that every day was scared if I was going to make it. And all these things I did as coping mechanisms, but they were actually ways to check out.
Yes. And my code was, I don't want to feel bad. And so I left my body because something terrible happened to me and I felt bad, like I was a bad girl. And it's completely unconscious. So we do all kinds of things in our subconscious mind that finds its way into taking us out of whatever we've experienced, and then it holds us there. And we have the power to create change when we uncover, and the way that we do it is through the patterns in your words. So if something that we've spoken into today resonates for you and you felt yourself lean in, or you have a yes for how to discover more, our embodiedcoaches.com is our website. If you desire to just hear more of Carrie and I, we are on StreamYard at 8:30 to 9:30-ish on Wednesday mornings. And then you can also find us on Clubhouse, which is a phone app. And that speaking is, my word is my wand. I mean, just
Your word
easy.
is your wand.
Your word is your wand. Easy, fun ways to jump in and speak with Carrie. You are welcome to leave comments or ask questions here. And you can actually ask questions on the Clubhouse format. You can take the mic. And we empower you to choose you and to choose something new and different. And if you've been desiring a new way to play, just direct message us. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again.
I do choose to share. So one of the things that you had said was, I didn't want to feel bad. But the code in that is, I didn't want to feel. We find in the first few words, there it is. And it was where you were trying not to feel the way you felt, and you didn't want to feel. So you were running with that. So bad plays a role in that phrase.
Yes.
But the very first words just really speak into.
And 90% of our serotonin receptors are in our stomachs and in our guts. And so that's why emotional eating, it feels so soothing, because it incites our serotonin levels.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you for showing up today, Crystal. We appreciate you.
Yes, that's my sister-in-law. I have several of them.
I'm aware you have a large family of in-laws.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you so much.
Please share and have a great day.
Already done. Bye.